If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune in to our YouTube channel on YouTube at Wild and Weird WV.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast.
There are many controversial topics that divide the Bigfoot community, but none so much as mindspeak. Experiencers claim that the creature they identify as Bigfoot somehow communicates with them via telepathic means. To both proponents of the flesh and blood theory and the paranormal theory, these claims have been challenged. But what if we are confusing another phenomena for Bigfoot? What if we are misinterpreting these encounters with something other? This is a highly speculative episode. Views expressed are our own. We invite everyone to keep an open mind and draw your own conclusions to this topic. Join us as we look at the strange phenomena of mindspeak on this episode of Wild and Weird Radio.
Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. Have you all been enjoying the live shows? Because we do sure know that we have.
Yeah, well, I've been enjoying the live shows. How about you, Brandon?
yeah.
You've been enjoying live shows, Brandon?
Yes.
Well, that's
fun.
By the way, guys, we're going to go ahead and officially introduce you to Mr. Brandon Wills, not only the Wild and Weird Radio field correspondent, but one of our new reoccurring co-hosts of Wild and
Hi,
Weird Radio.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and every now and again there'll be a ghost that sits in here every now and again too. Yeah, because we wanted to hear from our paranormal friends, and what better than to actually have a real ghost sit in on the show from time to time.
Indeed.
So when Brandon's not here, we'll have a ghost. I don't know its name; it hasn't really told us yet.
We'll just use the Ovilus and dial in Wayne.
Yeah, that'll work. That's what we'll do. Absolutely,
He'll show up.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about clones.
Yeah,
clowns? No, I'm kidding.
The clones.
Don't
Yeah,
say
we'll talk about
clones.
human cloning, and that will summon Wayne.
That will summon him. Don't do that because you'll summon a very angry him. We don't want that. That would be very bad. I have a feeling that would be a bad message right there. So how's everybody been?
Been doing good. Work has been a little more than hectic. I filled you in on some of it today.
Yeah, wonderful
but
stuff.
other than that, it's been good. How about you, Brandon?
Been pretty good. I've been reading up on Dogman.
I told you not to do that.
The West Virginia Dogman book by Dave Spinks. I think we know the guy that did the cover work for that.
Yeah, you
Martin's
might.
book too.
Martin's book there.
Oh yeah, there's Martin Grove's book.
Yep. Martin will be on eventually too.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, he wants to come on, and I think he'll have some great. Him and Dewey both actually would have some wonderful stories. I think.
We're actually hoping to have them for Wild and Weird Con this year as well.
We'll see. We're going to try to make some things happen. So.
As long as the dates line up and the stars align, we're set. Guys, remember before we go any farther, if you're listening to us on the audio section, go ahead and jump over to YouTube at some point and take a look there, because we now have upgraded our streaming system. We're now doing a more not programmed show, but we have way more illustrations that we can play with. And you're able to see some of the documents now instead of having to click links. We're able to actually flash them up on the screen for you. And it's great. So go ahead and head over to YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe on the videos, and listen away to your heart's content.
Definitely subscribe. That way you know when we do our lives, and the lives are a little bit different than what you're going to get with the regular show.
Let's talk about that for a second before we go into the news.
We had some people who didn't really quite understand, I don't think, or God bless them. I think they just happened to come in on the second live show we ever did, And I think that they expected this to be like a really rigid and structured show. And honest to goodness, though, I love the feedback because that's what we
Yeah,
asked for,
it was
and
good feedback.
it was honest feedback, and it really touched on a few things that I really think that are important. We do have a tendency from time to time to just assume everyone knows what we're talking about because we
Yeah.
had such a small audience at first, and everyone did in that small audience. They knew what we were talking about, but now we've reached out. We have thousands and thousands of people listening now.
We
Thank
do
you. I don't know
around the
why, but
globe.
God bless you all, and thank you for being here. And so we do need to make sure that we explain a little bit as to what is going on and what we're talking about and so forth. But here's the thing: with a live show, that's probably going to be a little more difficult. Live shows are meant for our audience. We
Yeah.
always wanted to make this an event that was completely interactive and help to build the community. And what better way to do it? We always promised you guys if we
Well,
ever got to that point, we
back
would
in the day, we
do it. Yeah,
started with live shows. Our first
we
5
did.
episodes before we started the podcast were
It was
actually
back on
live
Facebook.
shows.
It was back on Facebook.
Yeah, it was when
Yeah,
Facebook Live first started their thing, and we
it
were doing
really
live
was.
shows over there. And but the live shows are a little bit less constructed
They're a
than
lot
what
less
the
constructed.
traditional Wild and Weird radio show is. But it's just the nature of that show. It has to be that way because we're letting you interject. You have
Oh,
the opportunity
it's your show.
to
We
join us
Yeah. I
and
mean,
ask questions and direct which way the show's going. And it's been a blast. I've loved the last 2 episodes.
oh,
All the
absolutely.
interactions that we've had have been phenomenal.
It's like a choose your own adventure.
It is. It's great.
You
So
you go down the long hallway. There's a door. Do you turn and run the other way or open the door? Well, most
9
of you
times out
open
of
the
10,
door.
we open the door.
We open the door. So
Why not? Rabbit
anyway,
trail. Yes.
yes, and that can be a bit confusing, especially if you think you're listening to an ordinary podcast. I know a lot of people do lives that way, that they are structured,
Right.
but we're not going to be doing that.
And
Our lives will not be structured like that.
it's because a lot of people that do those structured live shows, they don't have another show that they do. We're now doing 2 weekly shows for you guys. One of them is a live seat of the pants kind of show, and then you get your standard Wild and Weird radio show that is
Right,
going to be structured and have everything laid out for you.
right, and that's what you're listening to now. So hope you enjoy that. And with that all said and done, we could probably move into the news at this point. You think, or
I
is
think
there
it's a
anything else you want to cover?
safe
We're
route to
good.
take.
All right. Then.
All right. So there were a few interesting things in the news this week.
The
The
heck you
spherical
say?
UFOs are showing up again.
Yeah,
There were
so
a few interesting things in the news.
just a few
Well,
interesting things.
Yeah, let's go with the fun stuff first. The spherical UFOs, yes, back in the news again as predicted.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked. Not shocked at all. And go ahead and run that story down there, Brandon.
so somebody noticed a dark speck in the sky that was zooming between some clouds. So they hit record, thankfully, instead of taking a picture. And it's popped up on TikTok. And about 2 seconds before the video ends, the spherical UFO just poof disappears, gone. Like there's no clouds or anything. It just disappears in the thin air.
You know what this one reminds me of, Ron?
Tell me.
There's that video, and we actually covered it on one of the early episodes of Wild and Weird, or we might have even covered it on the Facebook Live way back when.
Uh-huh.
It was the FPV drone footage.
I remember.
Do you remember
When,
that one?
yeah, when they caught it and
Zooming through the valley and then just hitting the sky and
yeah, I
almost
remember.
vaporized.
I remember that. And, a lot of people, I think they've came to the conclusion at this point that that was an insect. I don't necessarily believe that, but, back then that was the debunking thing that it was
Yeah.
an insect. But yeah, it does. It looks,
That was before the big disclosure stuff happened.
it was. Yeah, it was.
Do
It
you
was
think
before
maybe
it was okay to, see
You
UFOs.
think maybe they're not disappearing, that they're like locking into hyperdrive or something? They're just moving so quickly that we can't see it.
I mean, anything's a possibility with this stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, it's all, I mean, literally on the table and out the window as far as I'm concerned with these. But there's a lot of these orbs that are showing up. They are spherical, they are metallic looking, apparently in the daytime. And then we have to ask ourselves, is that what we're seeing at night that are glowing, these glowing orbs, globules of light that are moving around?
Mm,
Is that what these things are? It's a possibility, but I don't really know. And we just know that those sightings are absolutely, according to what we're hearing and what we're seeing, on the rise. But as I
mm.
warned, they will be, because everybody wants a billion clicks on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
So
very
they're going to
easy.
either fake it till they make it,
Yeah.
or they're just going to be standing out there with the cameras waiting.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm just saying this is one of the easiest things to fake.
Oh,
Forget,
you're going to see a lot.
dude, forget having to make these elaborate volumetric shaded, CG ships that have a billion polygons and lighting. No, just a sphere with
Yep.
normal, global illumination or HDRI lighting. Man, you got it. You're done. I mean, and to tell you what that means with a motion blur, I could render that probably at any standard resolution for a TikTok video. All you need is 1080p.
Yeah.
I could
Mhm.
I could do that, man. And just on this machine, I could do it in probably like 5 minutes. I can imagine what some of these people could do.
Yeah.
And at
Because
the
it's one of the
speed,
most basic
yeah,
shapes, especially in 3D
it's a
modeling.
basic shape. Yeah, it's a
It's
basic
what you
shape.
start with 9 times out of 10.
It's a basic shape. There's no fancy UV maps that have to be applied to it. It's
Yep.
just a sphere. So, they're going to be easy to fake, guys. I mean, don't mean they're all fake, but it
A lot of
means
those
that
fakes are really
you got to
lazy
watch
too.
them.
They'll have them just moving like a straight line.
What got me with this one, I would have believed it a little bit more if it wouldn't be for that ending sequence. The ending sequence makes me question it just a little bit.
Hmm.
So what do
What
we
else
got
we
coming
got?
up next?
There were the arrow points that were discovered, and
This
with
is
carbon
super
dating.
fascinating.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Somehow they
Yes.
carbon dated it. I guess there were plant fragments or maybe possibly meat or something on the points, but they carbon dated it to 15,700 years old.
And, that predates Göbekli Tepe.
It does.
Predates Clovis points by 3,000 years.
That's right.
3,000 years.
Yes. And the most amazing part about it to me is that we do see something that predates Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Actually, it goes back into Karen Tepe. This thing is 15,000 years old, which means that it was pre-Younger Dryas.
Yeah.
These were the people who were here that experienced the great catastrophe, the fall, the restart. So that is, to me, that is impressive. That is very impressive.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is that these are being found. This is a 15,700-year-old set of artifacts.
Yeah.
That are being found in North America. These are let's put these into perspective. This isn't being found
Yes.
in Africa, in the cradle of creation. It's not being found in Russia or over in what's now modern day Europe. These are being found in modern day Idaho.
Yeah, and let's put this into perspective. Those points, I want you guys to look at those points and look at the way that they look. What do they remind you of? What point style do a lot of these remind you of?
Well, they're really reminiscent of some of the Adena and Hopewell stuff.
They are 100% reminiscent of the Adena and the Hopewell stuff.
Yeah.
And this is just, to me, this is a very archaic. You can tell it's archaic.
Well, not just archaic. I'm looking at the shadow box right now that these were collected in, and photographed. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that are clearly quartzite.
Yes, you noticed that as well.
And to put that into perspective, That is an extremely difficult material to nap.
Chalcedony or quartzite. It's one of the two.
Well, the brown one, the third one from on the to the right on the top,
Mm-hmm.
that one is that one's definitely
That's quartz.
Yeah, that's quartz.
And I think
And
that
then
white one's quartz too.
the second one across is quartz too.
So, yeah.
But the other one is questionable. It might not be a quartz crystal. But still, they're very reminiscent of a lot of the Adena points, and the Hopewell points, and the materials being used as well.
Mm-hmm.
When they
The choice of material, like there's one maybe two pieces that look like they're Flint Ridge.
Yeah, right.
Did you look at that?
The color? Yeah.
yeah,
The collar looks like Flint Ridge material. And guys, okay, so this is one of those points where we're going to stop for a second based off the listener's suggestion, because I realize we're geeking out right now over rocks. And
we are. Absolutely.
And we are rock hounds. Okay, that shelf back here has got all kinds of rocks and crystals on it. We go to rock shows and buy stuff. We're rock hounds, and not only rock hounds, we love to preserve and collect artifacts that were ethically captured, or not captured, but found, uncovered. And Flint Ridge material is extremely colorful.
Yes.
It was a favorite material to be used for a lot of ceremonial points. And it was also coincidentally very easy to work.
Yeah, they used it for everything, literally. It just turns out some of the most beautiful colorations of this stuff. And that's from the Ohio River Valley, basically is where all this stuff's from, that area.
Here's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That kind of color. And that is actually a Hopewell artifact. And anywho, back to that. When we're looking at these rocks, we're identifying what these materials are made of. Some of those materials are extremely difficult to nap. Some of them were very easy to nap, like the cannel coal piece.
Right.
The cannel coal piece can be done with a stick. And then you've got your Flint Ridge pieces. Those are very nice pieces that are in this little find. And then you've got quartz pieces. Now, were those quartz pieces being used in similar ways that the quartz pieces were alleged to being used by Hopewell, Adena, Fort Ancient cultures as ceremonial pieces? Did they hold the value that they had on them, or was this something that they were finding and saying these are special and then recreating?
Right. And, one of the more important parts about this is this. I really like the fact that they have this display. And you can see the different materials we're talking about. If you nap, which is the art of making arrowheads or stone tools, I do it. I can tell you, each material naps completely differently. It chips completely differently. These are different techniques for these arrowheads that were used. And for them to predate the Clovis culture, which the Clovis culture gave us those wonderful big fluted arrowheads and spear points. This is, to me, almost out of time. This doesn't belong where it was found. That's what I'm trying to get at.
So what this does, though, if you think about it, what this does, because this has been one of history's greatest questions, especially regarding these arrowheads and artifacts, it always has seemed like the Clovis culture just disappeared.
Right.
And then suddenly this new napping technique developed with the Adena.
Right.
But now we're finding points that are older than the Clovis that are in the same fashion as the Adena.
Yeah, this just throws everything into a tailspin. Like, what came first here at this point?
Yeah.
Because who knows? And it's important to it's very important to understand that the Clovis people, like you said, disappeared. There are those who believe that they were wiped out by the impact.
And there are many that believe that a lot of the remainder is assimilated into what are now the modern tribes.
Right, exactly. And that's where we get the technology. And we always said that there was an issue with,
Yeah.
this because the Clovis points are clearly more technologically advanced in
They were
creation.
because as these points indicate, and the Adena points, when we compared the Adena points to the Hopewell points, we were like, oh, well, there was a step lost here.
Yeah, there's a complete
Mhm.
step lost. So there's a huge section of technology that it shows on the record that was just completely forgotten.
Yeah.
At least for a very long time. There's a lot of our history, in my opinion, that we have no clue. I mean, it's buried. It's buried, and we're lucky that we even found this. This was on Nez Perk land, from what I understand.
Yep.
Mhm.
And a lot of excavation is just not allowed on those types of lands, on native land. So we're lucky.
We are extremely lucky, and I believe, honestly, probably the reason that this was permitted was because of the significance of the find to
Mhm.
not only the historical study, but also the First Nations people,
As a whole.
and as
Yep.
right as a whole,
Hmm.
to
Because this would be their ancestors, all
exactly,
tribes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
I
this
agree.
is people we're both learning, two
Yep.
cultures learning together about where we came from.
And that's what needs to happen.
It
So I'm
is.
very happy that that is exactly what happened in this case. And I cannot wait to hear more about what they actually find, and see some more of these incredible artifacts, because they just showed this little bit. I want to see, the scrapers.
Yep.
I want to see the hammers. I want to see what they were using to nap them
Yep.
with. This is going to answer so many questions.
That's probably one of I think my favorite news article that
It
we've had
was
this week.
definitely one of my favorite
It's crazy to think to me that they
news
might have been
articles.
hunting like ground sloths and stuff like that at that time.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, they totally were. These things were just, they're out there, and
Hmm.
you get one, and it could feed an entire village. For
Yep.
how long? You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of those oh, what was that giant bear species from back then?
the giant cave bear.
Was it? Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
it was the
huge.
cave bear.
Yep, yep.
Those
Monsters
things were
from our
massive.
past. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure, for sure.
they were almost twice the size of a grizzly.
Yeah. They stood roughly, I think it was like 16 to 20 feet.
Hmm. That's that's a nightmare.
Right.
Running
But I
into
mean, you
something
had
like
to be
that.
that big when you're going up against mastodon that are,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
buffalo.
yeah. But that's why it
yeah,
was the age of the megafauna, and
yeah,
that's why they didn't make it past the Younger Dryas event. Whatever happened, there just wasn't enough food for these gigantic things.
yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and if there were actually people of that stature, as some believe, I mean, what are they going to eat?
Right.
The food that they normally eat's gone at this point. So
Well, here's another question: is it possible that those giant people made these?
no,
No,
You
I
don't
wouldn't
think
say
so?
these.
no, we've seen
These,
artifacts that can be attributed to bigger than normal.
yeah.
Let's just say that
We
we've
need to
seen.
take you with us to a
Yeah,
specific museum.
we've seen some pretty big artifacts, and
Yeah.
there's archaeologists say that they are ceremonial. Um, okay, that maybe, but evidence to the contrary states that they were not. That they were actually
Used.
very used, and they were used by wielded by beings that were a lot bigger than your average 6 and 7 foot
Yeah.
individual at the time. And seven's
Well,
pretty big,
at the
by the
time,
way.
you're dealing with a people that is on average 5'4" to
Right,
5'5". Okay.
right.
This is a stone that me at 6'3", who has a background in like working with heavier stuff. It's a stone that I would have trouble moving on the end of it.
It's about, I think, 15 to 16 pounds, something like that, is
Yeah, well, there
what
was
some of
one
these
there.
were.
There's one at the museum that's 24 pounds.
Yeah, I think it was the biggest they had found,
Yeah, it's
but
a 24-pound
I don't
hammer
remember.
essentially, or what,
Yeah,
axe head,
they're axe heads. Yeah,
and
Wasn't there a giant axe head found in the South Charleston Mound?
I can't
allegedly,
I can't remember. There was some giant copper ornaments found. I know that for a fact.
Giant copper bracers for the wrist and around the
Mm.
neck.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, um, I guess that's something we covered back. If you guys don't know, we did a series called Fallen Worlds,
Yep.
and
That was in episode 1, I believe.
yeah, and that was with it was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, we covered the
Chase-
mounds on the first one, and then we touched again
Chasing
on them with Emily.
Chasing Giants, I believe
Yep.
was the first. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, if you're interested, go back and have a listen to that. And yeah, Emily did join us on a later episode. So yeah, if you're interested in that stuff, go back and listen to the Fallen Worlds episodes. They're pretty good.
What do we got up next? I think it's the biggest topic that was in the news, right?
Dear Lord. Yeah.
Oh Lord, Brandon, bring us in.
So we talked about the Chinese spy balloon on the live episode, and the government finally decided to shoot it down off the coast of South Carolina near Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, seems like a great place. Mind you, they waited till it did get over the ocean, which I understand their leeriness of bringing it down over a populated or forested area. But this thing hovered in our airspace across the majority of our country, and we let it reach the water.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
Mm.
My thing is that, and you guys who haven't seen it, I did a little thing on that while this was happening. It's happened before.
Yeah.
It's happened multiple times before. It's happened since 2020.
Yep.
This is not new. None of this is new.
Accidentally flying over Allied airspace.
Yeah, I mean, there's yeah, I don't know, blows my mind. But we actually cared this time. And, you know, I don't go into the political stuff on this show. But I got a feeling that you need to just start thinking sometimes.
Yeah.
On your own. But when you have the fact that these things have happened before and no one really literally gave a crap, period.
Well, we did scramble F-22s one time.
Just to check out what it was. And once we found out what it was, what did we do, Joe?
Came right back home.
Ended up in the war zone, I believe. There's a write-up about that. And that was all she wrote.
Yep.
But this time we have an international incident over a balloon. What has humanity turned into? You're embarrassing.
I think it probably has a lot to do with there was nothing else going on in the news, so people were focusing on that. And
right.
Public outcry. That's probably why they decided to take action.
I agree.
I think you're right. I think it was the whole, that's what they want us to do. Let's go do it without really thinking about it. But I'll say this too. Right, exactly. But we do have these people who thought, oh, well, it should have never have entered the airspace. We should have shot it down. Guys, that's not how it freaking works. I'm just going to tell you right now. That's not how this works at all. You have to do something called intel.
Yeah.
And
from the get-go, the thing was handled incorrectly.
Yeah.
Let's just hypothetically say that, the Chinese were telling the truth. Okay.
Okay.
And this is a balloon, a research balloon. I know, based off of tracking devices that, have been installed on certain animals and certain vehicles and things of that nature, that you can track those things in near real time.
Yeah.
You don't just lose them. So when this thing flew over Canadian airspace first, they should have said, hey, Canada, one of our balloons kind of got out of course and it's now flying over you. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to do a favor and we're going to call the United States and we're going to inform them so that way they don't lose their crap. You know what? They didn't.
No.
They waited and they waited and then they waited. And then it got spotted by civilians and then reported in. And it turned into a giant fiasco. Mind you, I personally don't believe that gigantic satellite hanging from the bottom of the balloon was just a weather device. But Just saying, China,
Well,
you should have called first. You
yeah,
could have made a phone call.
yeah, just
It'd
just
been
a
real easy.
simple phone call, or the fact that this thing was halfway maneuverable.
Yeah.
Another thing would have been, oh, we're over Canada. Oh crap, we're drifting into the United States. Let's make a course adjustment.
Right. Because, we're not as good of friends with them as we are Canada.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do instead? Oh, you let it fly over the missile fields.
Yeah.
That
We
makes
let
a
it fly
lot of
over our
sense.
military installations, our very secure military installations, I'll add.
Now it's time for me to pick on the United States, because I'm not going to be biased in this like everybody else is.
Yeah.
I want to know why, not why did we let it fly over, et cetera, et cetera. I want to know why we let anything that's not a satellite, because we can't stop satellites, right?
Right.
And they are, let's face it, way more powerful. They're getting more information than a stupid balloon any day. Let's be real. But we let a balloon go over our most sensitive military sites, and we didn't take it out. I mean, there had to be a point at some point where this thing was out over a cow pasture, or out over,
Yes. Just
the
uninhabited zone.
uninhabited zone. But no, we didn't do that. We waited.
What if they
a
did shoot it
chance.
over a cow pasture and we had another Roswell going on?
That'd be all right. I mean, that's fine. That'd be cool. At least everybody knew it was a balloon this time.
Well, if you would have done it right, the gravity of this thing, because it's so huge, the just sheer mass would have nearly pulled it straight down.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it's big, but my whole thing is, we did wait, and it's like, well, what in the world? I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. But I will say this: it proved a really good point for me, and I'm very happy about that. It proves that the public knows the difference between a weather balloon and UFOs,
It did.
contrary to what we've been told for
It
70
did.
plus years. So the next time someone tells you that a UFO is a weather balloon, pull up a picture of this thing and say, I know the difference between a balloon and what I saw.
Let's get the obelisk out, and we're gonna hone in on J. Allen Hynek,
Okay.
and we're gonna be like, hey, we know.
But no, this was an absolute fiasco. And it also makes me wonder what was going on that they didn't want us to see while we were looking up.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I've read some interesting theories about it.
Oh, everybody's crazy, Brandon. They're all crazy.
If it did have a
Theories.
GPS tracker on it, the only thing understandable from a technological perspective is that maybe the GPS tracker malfunctioned and they lost track of it.
The GPS
That's
tracker on
everything
my cell
reasonable.
phone.
It's a balloon. It's the Fortnite balloon.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
don't lose track of a 90-foot object in this.
Yeah.
Everyone could see it.
Yeah.
No, I don't buy that. Their satellites saw it. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, guys.
People
It's
think they were
painful.
trying to test the American response to an unknown foreign object flying in our airspace.
But they've
Well,
done
we
it
already did
before.
that during
We
the
did
Nimitz
it.
encounter.
Right? I'm just saying that data is there.
Yeah.
But no, we don't really know what the situation was with that. But I'm
Nope.
just saying
It was a wild ride for a few days.
It was a wild ride. So
Made some good memes. My favorite one was the one of Joe
Uh.
Dirt hanging off the bottom of it.
Yes. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we
I was
got
kind of
some-
partial to the one with the Chinese food box hanging from the
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So we got some good memes from it, and we got some harsh warnings from China. Whatever. We all need each other, and I think that's a sad thing that people don't understand is we need each other. It's just how it is, and we need to start learning how to get along with each other. And if we don't, it don't matter. I mean, this
War
is
almost
all.
never solves anything.
No, it really doesn't. So if you really think for a minute that this balloon incident is that important, it's really not. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, other things are important, but this balloon
until they
thing
pull the
wasn't.
black box off.
I don't.
But
think
we'll
it
never be told about
exists.
that.
I don't think that exists anymore,
Well, there's got to be a hard drive of some sort because they popped the balloon, not the satellite.
dude. Dude, do you not think that that thing didn't already relay everything in real
Oh,
It was
time?
probably
yeah.
transmitting live.
It was. It
But
was.
there's got to be some kind of data we can pull.
I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I
It's
mean,
gonna
I
have a
don't know.
lot of Winnie the Pooh pictures on it.
I will say
Now we
this.
were scrambling some of the stuff too.
Well, I would. Yeah, they were. They were. I will say this, however, about the balloon. I want to know why it took a Sidewinder missile to take a balloon down when it was
It was really
done.
expensive.
It was a very expensive takedown. It could have been done with a few rounds of just ordinary cannon fire. Am I right? I mean,
Yeah.
it has been done
Yeah, but it
before.
looks cooler when it's a Sidewinder missile.
It does, and no one gets to use their Sidewinder missiles that much,
Yeah,
especially over
Pilot must have
Myrtle
had a
Beach.
blast.
I mean, look at me, Ma. I get to use a Sidewinder missile over Myrtle Beach. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. All right, go you.
You got to spend the budget somewhere, otherwise you don't get it back next year.
Way to go, Maverick.
All right, I think it wraps us up for the news. We're going to go ahead and rejoin your regularly scheduled program. So if you thought that the last segment of the news was going to be controversial, just wait till you hear about this week's topic. It is a really hot button issue among the Bigfoot community, as well as some paranormal communities. But after we started really looking at the last couple weeks of our regular format show, it fits perfectly in our opinion. And the topic for this week we are covering is mind speak. Now, if you're not aware what mind speak is a phrase that was coined by some Bigfoot researchers back in the day, where they were going out into the forest and they started to hear these voices in their heads. Now, these aren't voices like the individual was going crazy. They legitimately feel as if they had these conversations spiritually or in their head with a being that was within the vicinity, and they referred to themselves oftentimes as the forest people or the Sasquatch people. And they're normally bringing these messages of tidings of goodwill and hope and what all Earth is doing wrong and how we should correct course to bring more harmony and balance to our planet. But the caveat is they claim that it's Bigfoot. But I don't think we went through a lot of reports. We combed through them for the last week and a half, just kind of digging through different things. And we went through several of these before in the past when we were covering similar topics on the show. I don't recall coming across a single report where the individuals who were experiencing the mind speak actually encountered a Sasquatch. Would that be correct, guys?
I think that's correct.
Like, is that what you guys kind of seem to?
I mean, I've
Maybe.
heard that they've seen something that looks like a Sasquatch while this
Okay.
was occurring. Yes.
I think I've heard stories where like they hear noises in the woods that sounds like it might be something big out there, but I don't think I've ever heard of anybody actually seeing a Sasquatch.
Not
Right,
a
yeah.
actual Sasquatch, but a shadowy type,
Yeah.
tall creature off in the distance. Yes.
And the noises were frequent.
Yes.
They could hear them coming in, but then they wouldn't reveal themselves, but they would speak to
Mhm.
these individuals telepathically, because it's really what this is it's telepathic communication. This is for whatever reason, this is a huge debated topic in the Bigfoot community, and to a degree I understand why, and I know that you guys do too. It's because it does delve into the woo, but it is also, we can't really deny it at this point, especially with some of the things that we're seeing about communication from the government and these other parties. We'll just refer to them as that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And communicating using their minds. We just covered 3 weeks of episodes where you had people like Kit Green and Joseph McGonigal, who were having these experiences and communicating with what?
Well, yeah,
Their minds,
their minds, yeah.
with something.
With something, yes.
And we don't know what the something is. Now, what do you guys think? Like, because this is one of those deals where we're dealing with a very touchy subject. I know a lot of our listeners have brought up mind speak before. They've had these experiences. We've had reports sent to us, and we've treated them with respect. We've not blown them out of proportion. We've looked at them in good, honest, hard faith, but we're not seeing what we see with our traditional Bigfoot stuff, are we?
It's not Bigfoot. As in,
No.
I'll say it's not Bigfoot, i.e., ape Bigfoot,
Right.
physical flesh creature Bigfoot. In my opinion, it's not.
Because it does seem to walk into that more paranormal aspect, the other, the Bigfoot like.
Oh, it's
Um,
100%. Yeah.
and Brandon, what have you been what have you read up on with this? Where I know you've read some different stuff than what we have. Um, and where's your kind of general consensus on what we're looking at?
Well, I've read a lot of stuff and also listened to a lot of podcasts. Like Les Stroud was on Sasquatch Chronicles, and he said that he heard something talking to
Yes.
him in the woods, but he never said it was Bigfoot. He just said he didn't
Right.
know what it was. He said it was telling him something like to get out or he was going to be hurt and not bring cameras, stuff like
Yep.
that. It's like, why would Bigfoot wouldn't say something like that? How would they speak English, first of all?
Well, one of the things that I remember from that same episode of Sasquatch Chronicles with Les Stroud on, do you remember the segment where they went into and he had that massive UFO experience that was like the size
Mm,
of a football field?
yep.
Now, given what we've covered the last 3 weeks, that is the direction that I'm tending to lean, and I've leaned that way for a long time.
Yep. He
I
even
don't.
he had other Bigfoot encounters too that he says probably
Yes.
was Bigfoot, but it had none of the factors associated with it.
Right. And there's I hate to say this, but there does seem to be, just like with every group, with every community, every sect of the community, this the people who are experiencing the mind speak and a lot of the people who rally with it and follow it, it has a really bad tendency to almost develop this like borderline cult behavior with the extreme end of it. Now
Mhm.
there are plenty of witnesses that I've worked with and spoke with that have they're just freaked out, like, we don't understand. This is it's something's communicating with us. They believe it's Bigfoot. They do 100% believe it's Bigfoot. But it is they believe they're being communicated with. And they're not bonkers. These are normal people. These are people who have one of them has a PhD and is a medical doctor, that works on like life-saving
Yeah.
surgery stuff.
Hmm.
And they've had these encounters and they don't know what to make of it. But they were interested in the phenomena that is Bigfoot, and they were out doing research, and they started to hear these voices. And it wasn't like some of the ones that we've covered in the past. This was more along what Les Stroud had heard, where it was something that was telling them to get out of the forest, get out of here. This is get away. It was warnings,
Mm.
not this big in depth like biography, right?
Right.
Because some of these mind speak experiencers, which is where I tend to lean, is they are experiencers.
Hmm.
They they have these big elaborate stories that are being told to them about the Sasquatch people, about how their tribal structure works, about how the hierarchy in their little family group is, how many are in their little family group, and what their names are, what their favorite foods are, favorite collars and favorite things that they find on the floors of the forest. When you start getting into these titles and these names and these behaviors and personalities, it sounds a whole lot like when people start experiencing the avians and the Venusians.
Well, you're absolutely right. You just described a contact experience, an early contactee experience. That's Adamski. They spoke to him in his mind, and they explained, the society to him. That's the same thing with Cold and
And
Derenberger.
cold.
It's the exact same thing. I'm going to speak to you with my mind. You don't have to speak out loud. You can just do it in your mind, and that's the premise of the whole thing. It's the exact same thing. It's just we're talking about people who are looking for Bigfoot, and that's what they're interpreting this to be. But evidence, in my opinion, points that we're dealing with the facts. And the facts are it seems to be an intelligence. And that intelligence is far more intelligent than the person, honestly, and not just because of the ability to speak in the mind, but to know things that it
Right.
shouldn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this thing somehow also knows precognitively that things are happening or going to happen. To me, that's the same exact thing that early contactee witnesses were reporting.
Well, even with the cultural, like you mentioned how they did the cultural, but one of the other prevailing messages that Indrid Cold had and that Valiant Thor had was that civilization is heading down the wrong track
Yeah.
and that we need to correct course and to
Mhm.
be better. These are the
Mhm.
same messages that are being conveyed to the individuals who are experiencing the mind speak phenomena.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing you. I mean, it's like it's an environmental message, right?
Right.
It's the exact same thing that happened at the aerial school in 1994 with all those students who saw the UFO. Remember, the
Yeah.
ones who
Mm-hmm.
actually witnessed the UFO?
Yep.
Uh, they went out there and these things came up to them and they didn't talk to them. They
Now,
spoke in their
briefly
mind.
go into that account real quick and explain the historic significance and whatnot. If
Okay,
you
so the historic significance was it was a group of pupils. It was they were on a morning break at this school, and this was in where was it at, Joe? Help
it
me
was in
here.
South
South
Africa.
Zimbabwe,
Africa.
Rua, Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
Yeah, Zimbabwe, and so they're out there on break, and one sees a UFO, and the UFO lands, and these beings emerge from it, and it's a group of children who see these things, um, and they described them the same. They all described these beings as the same, and they said that they were moving around the ship, the UFO, and that they were actually like doing weird movements and odd kind of things. This almost sounds the same as you're saying with these people who are seeing these, whatever they're seeing out there, you
Yeah.
know. Um, it's not that they're actually, in my opinion, seeing them do these things. It's that they're putting that in your head, you know. Um, and that's going to come into something here in a little bit later. But you know, these kids saw this stuff and they were interviewed. They were interviewed. Dr. Mike interviewed them. Several other people did, and Dr. Mike, the late Dr. Mike, uh, Harvard psychologist, psychiatrist, and he was very adamant that these children did have this experience. He documented it. There were other researchers who said that the kids didn't tell them about it, so obviously it didn't happen. But the thing is, we're talking about over 60 kids who saw this. By the way, that's 60 witnesses,
And the administrator.
right? And the administrator, and not only that, there was a follow up with these kids as they got older, and they still remember. They weren't coached. They witnessed something. They didn't even talk about it as much back then, but later on it came out and they told what they had seen, and these things had put into their heads these environmental issues, these catastrophes, earth in crisis. You know, my opinion is it's the same exact thing that we hear with a lot of abductees to this day. that they have been given these dire warnings. Some people say they're predicting the future, they're seeing the future. I think it's a warning. These things are giving us warnings of the possible futures, is the way that I see it. And, you know, to me, it's the same thing you guys are talking about. These Bigfoot are doing the same thing. I don't think they're Bigfoot. And you're not going to convince me that these are Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's definitely seems to be something that is beyond
Mm.
this flesh and blood capacity. And for all intents and purposes, you know, we're looking at a creature.
Yeah,
that is
a very intelligent one.
A very intelligent creature. Like, you know, we believe that the Sasquatch is a very intelligent creature. It's been able to evade us. It leaves prints behind and very, you know, infrequent sightings, and but able to evade us in a way. But they're not using fire that anybody knows. They're not using mechanical tools that anyone knows of. And it doesn't seem that a being like that would be able to use telepathy to speak to higher intellect. And I'm not saying that we're like the higher intellect. I'm saying that it is speaking as a higher intellect, that it's speaking as if it's beyond us.
And it may not be only speaking to us, all of us, it may selectively only speak to one or two in a group. That has happened multiple times as well.
Yep.
Also, the same thing that happens in the UFO phenomena. And we've shown how this can happen. High EMF can affect the brain. Look at Dr. Persinger's study on that, for example. Here it is. And what is this? This was a groundbreaking study as far as I'm concerned. It proved that if you stimulate certain areas of the brain enough, that you can force these visions.
Yeah.
You can force these you know, hallucinations, if you will, but they're not really hallucinations. You can force these living dreams, almost these visions, and make people see and think that they're having these experiences, which they kind of are. And they may even interpret them as religious experiences or spiritual experiences. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely fascinating. He is the one who also built the so-called God helmet, and that's what it does. It targets certain specific areas of the brain, and it pulses EM radiation into those areas. And they have been able to reproduce out-of-body type experiences. Same thing that we hear
Extreme
with abduction
euphoria.
experiences. Extreme euphoria. Same thing we hear with some abduction experiences. It literally has produced abduction type experiences.
Yeah.
And communication with a entity. Same thing we hear with abduction experiences. It's the same thing.
Yeah, who's to say that these creatures are in the woods? Maybe they're hitting us from space.
Or another dimension.
Yeah.
Or that. Yeah.
Both of those are plausible.
Yeah. Or they're right in front of you all the time. You know, maybe the forest people are the forest people. They're just not people.
Right.
You got the predator running around.
Yeah.
Oh, no, see, that's another one, man. We gotta. There's been some weird sightings of these, you know, Glimmer Man, you know, the predator kind of thing.
The predator.
That's something we talked about loosely in a really old episode here.
There was actually a report of that just that I saw come across the news this morning. So it'll probably be all over Facebook by the time this airs.
There was actually some videos of Glimmer Man. Have you seen those?
Yeah, those are trippy.
Freaky.
Yeah.
So there's something out there. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that there is something out there, and it is not always a big hairy ape.
No, and that's been our MO. That's been our direction that we've gone ever since we really started getting into the field, and had these various experiences. Now we've never experienced the mind speak thing, and it's not something that we attribute to Bigfoot, but we know less. Well, minimize these reports.
I will say this though, in the experience that you guys had, you heard a baby crying.
Oh, well, okay. We're going to go back to that. Now,
let's talk about that and bring folks up to what we're talking about here.
We did talk about this. Ron and I spoke about this earlier before we came on camera. And you guys, a lot of you have been listening to Wild and Weird Radio for a while. You've probably heard mention of parts of this encounter. It was when Ron first saw his first something
August
out there in the forest.
21st, 2020.
And we were at the family farm, and we were all just kind of there relaxing, because 2020 was just 2020.
2020.
And then we were just spending time, and my son was a baby and crying, as a baby, had that baby cry. And we were just out there right after Ron and I had this encounter. We were inside, and 15, 20 minutes later, all of a sudden I start hearing what I thought was Rowan cry. So I go, look, no, he's not crying. And then the girls start hearing it. And we hear it multiple times. Now, Ron never heard it.
You guys heard it like 3 or 4 times.
But we heard it 3 or 4 times, yeah.
I heard nothing at
and
all.
And Ron
I'm in
never
the same
heard it.
room, right beside them. So,
And it was just,
I'm not
so
that deaf.
bizarre. And Ron brought it up that it could have been some kind of a mind speak thing. It's possible.
It could have been.
And I'm not sure. Now, it felt like I was hearing it with my ears, because I have been in deep trances before. You guys know that, not I say trance, but they use that term loosely. You guys know that I was a minister for a long
Deep
time.
meditative state of
Yeah, it was a deep meditative state. There we go. That's good. And I would communicate with God spiritually, and I would hear the voice in my head. That's the way I heard it. Now, that's a lot about the way these guys explain their mind speak phenomena. They're hearing it inside. It's not something they're audibly hearing, but it's something they're hearing with their spirit, with their mind, whatever you want to call it. And this was different. Like, I was hearing Rowan with my ears, but it could have been, though. It very well could have been. We don't know what kind of capacity and what capabilities that these things could have.
We don't even know what they are.
Right.
Well,
so
every religion in the world speaks of this too.
Yeah.
They do.
Good point. That's a good point, Brandon.
Yeah.
So this is something that is like, it's not that bizarre of a phenomenon. Now, it is when you start labeling it, when you start trying to put in certain boxes.
Right. But exactly. Yes.
This is it seems natural, almost natural phenomena.
Yeah.
That has been documented in every religion. It is very,
man. Let's think about this. Let's use religion, because that's where it starts. Why not? Let's use religion.
Right.
How do you pray?
Yeah, exactly. You meditate.
Telepathically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
this is what this is.
A lot of people don't realize, especially like modern religion, a lot of people don't realize that prayer is meditation.
Yeah, it's just another name for meditation.
It's just another name for meditation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did everyone just think that New Agers were evil demon worshippers there for a second? No, they're not. It's the same thing. These labels kill me. The labels kill me, man.
That is really the simplest way to communicate with the spiritual side, is just prayer. I was actually in this very room one day. I was having that day, and I was praying, and I felt hands come on my shoulders.
That's because Patty's walking behind you.
Yeah, it's right there behind you. What's wrong with you? Can't you see? Jesus.
I couldn't resist.
It wasn't God. It was a Bigfoot. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
They're going to quote me on that one. It wasn't God. It was a big. Did you hear what he
Brandon,
said?
go ahead. You have the floor.
Anyway, sorry.
It's just that, like, if you actually, I feel like if you have intent on communicating telepathically, you'll probably get an answer with whatever you're trying to communicate with.
Yeah, or who. I mean, here's the thing. That's been studied. The Ryan Institute has pretty much documented that we can do this. All of us probably, at least special people can. But
that's what religion tells you, is we all have the ability to do that.
Everyone
We're all
can.
born with it.
It's just that we don't, because there's so much external stress that's there, things that block us to keep us away from it. As the New Agers would say, lower vibrations. whatever
the
you want
point.
to call it. I don't care. But the point is, there's something there that blocks us.
Yep. That's the point of meditation too. You're supposed to
Yes.
relax your body and your mind to
Yes.
open it up to this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so back to the mind speak phenomena with as it pertains to Bigfoot, I think that it's just been miscategorized.
Yeah.
It did happen. It started happening to Bigfooters. I
Yeah.
think it was a happy accident in the sense of that these folks were out here and they experienced a phenomena that wasn't Bigfoot while they were looking for Bigfoot. We've said this multiple times pertaining to the paranormal side of these things that it does appear that there is something else going on, and it's abundantly clear that multiple people are experiencing these phenomena. But it's also blaringly clear that it's not the big hominid going around in the woods that's doing it. I never experienced the mind speak phenomena during my sighting. I've never experienced the mind speak phenomena while we've been out investigating, and especially when we were out with crews of people and we were on top of an alleged Bigfoot. Literally, it was captured in thermal. It was captured on audio and everything. Never heard anything in our heads.
Yeah, you'd
Never heard
think
anything in the spirit.
if you were scaring that thing and I had that ability, it would have been blaring at you guys.
You're right. It would be like sirens going off, like "Get out of
Yeah.
here! I'm gonna destroy you!" That's what you would think, right? It would be doing some kind of an intimidation tactic, but we weren't experiencing this. So it goes back, I believe, and again, this is just me saying, I believe that this is the way that this works. It doesn't mean that that is the way it works. It's just my interpretation. Is that we're dealing with something that is on the level that the government has been studying for many, many moons. It's just that these aren't happening in controlled settings. These aren't happening in people's homes where they're experiencing an abduction phenomenon. It's happening in the woods. I wonder if some of these people, again, this is purely speculation, okay? Pure speculation. Looking at the Can-Am project, Missing 411. I'm curious how many of these people that went missing, never seen again, heard something in their head that said, "Come this way," or threatened them to leave, and out of terror, they ran, got lost, fell in a hole, broke their everything, and died.
Yeah.
Or what if they ignored the warnings?
Or what if they ignored the warnings? I'm curious as to how many of those have happened. I would love if you're seeing the footer here on the banner, if you're one of our listeners and you've experienced the mind speak phenomena, or you regularly experience a mind speak phenomenon when you go out to research and you've got an area that you frequent, get a hold of us. There are some questions that we'd like to ask. We're not, and these aren't like poking fun at you questions. We would actually like to, maybe get some research data off you. We'd like to maybe, if possible, come to your research area with you and bring some of our instrumentation.
Well,
That'd
I
be
think
fun.
that,
Because I'd be curious.
I'd be curious of the EM levels is what I
Yeah.
would be curious of. And
I'd be curious as to all, like, anything that we would find there.
Yeah.
And
I would
what
also
would
be
happen during those communication points.
Oh, absolutely. I'd also be very curious to see how many people who experience this have experienced other so-called paranormal phenomena,
Like the hitchhiker
including
effect.
right, like the hitchhiker effect. Exactly. Like, are they also seeing UFOs? Are they also seeing, these poltergeist type activity in their homes? I want to know if
Yeah.
that's the case. If that is, then it definitely puts us in a data set that points to something clearly more intelligent going on here than we may think.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
whatever that is, I don't know. You can call it aliens if you want. You can call it extra dimensionals or ultra terrestrials. I don't really care. But
I call it high strangeness for sure.
it's high strangeness, yeah, because there's something there. There's a very, very intelligent something there, and it's very strange.
And I wonder how many of our listeners right now are just absolutely shocked that the approach we took to Mindspeak.
I wonder
Because
how
this
many are
isn't.
mad right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And because it's such a controversial topic, just because, man, I'll be honest, a lot of the characters are really polarizing. They don't make it easy.
Yeah.
They make it really easy on the other side to be like, you are a wackadoodle. That's the bad part, because
Right.
they get the level of defensiveness and the level of aggression that can be shown, which again, what is this also a common characteristic with? Experiences
Sightings.
and
Yeah,
sightings.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, I know what I saw. And you really, you saw something. I give you that 100%.
Yeah.
But can you tell me that that was a Pleiadian mothership? No, you can't. You can think that there was a Pleiadian mothership, but you can't tell me it was, because you don't have the evidence. You only, even if they told you we're from the Pleiades, and they have, by the way, I'm going to tell you, I do believe you. I 100% believe you that you have experienced this, and they have told you, oh, we're from the Pleiades star system, and we're here to make sure that Earth does this and that. Do you really trust that? Do you really think that you can believe that? I mean, I don't know. To me, that's just like blind faith, and I'm
what
not.
makes you what gives you the feeling or the confidence that you can trust that?
Good point. Good point. We're showing you something that can manipulate your mind, something that can make you see anything, hear anything at once, possibly even make you do things subconsciously. Yet you're going to believe it when it tells you it is this or that. I can't. I can't.
Yeah. And especially like when you start breaking into some of these tribal structures, and you're coming up with these big elaborate explanations of who the forest people are, and their names and their structure. We don't have any proof of it. What is it that makes that seem so valid to you? What is it that is so blaringly obvious to you that is a real thing? And we're not poking at it. We're not saying
no, it's real.
We
what you're experiencing
to know,
is real, but
yeah,
we
want to know what it is to you. Like what happened that made it just click?
Yeah.
It's interesting to me too is everybody hears his mind speak. It's always in English, and all the names are either English or like Greek origin names. These people.
Think about it.
Oh, my leader is Janet, and my mother's name is Venus, something like that.
Xanu.
It's like,
that's a.
How do they know how to speak human languages when they've been hiding from us for centuries?
Because the intelligence, brace yourself, the intelligence that may be behind it may know us better than we know ourselves.
Oh, hold on a second. What was that, Patty? Yeah, she says she likes the name Patty.
Yeah, see? I mean, that's it.
It's such an interesting topic, and it's one that we can really go and like do a full freaking rabbit hole deep dive on. But that's not an hour and a half show or hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, it's definitely not
days long.
But like I believe it. I believe it though.
I believe they're experiencing something. I refuse to discredit what they're telling me, especially based off of some of the evidence that we've been provided at this point.
Yep.
And these aren't evidence sources that are made up.
Right.
Yeah.
These are CIA documents and Pentagon documents. I mean,
I have seen some stuff pop up lately of religious people getting into the mind speak thing, and they believe that it's demonic because it's threatening, trying to scare
Yeah.
you off. I mean, it could be.
Well, let's
Who
think about
knows?
that
There,
for
there
just
was a
1
book.
second.
There was a
I'm-
book about that and a podcast about that. The podcast, one of the ones I can't remember who it was that did the podcast, so they're gonna have to forgive me and I'll apologize. But it was the voice of fear was, I think, the title of it, Mind Speak, the voice of fear. That was one of the ones I'd heard. But there's other books too. It's meeting science and Bigfoot, Mind Speak, and it is all about metaphysical stuff.
Mhm.
So tapping into Sasquatch and science, Mind Speak. That's a book that was written by I'll give you that, Christopher Noel. Oh, Christopher Noel's a real popular guy.
Oh.
He is also a Small Town Monsters alum, and he wrote that book. That's one that I did pull some little segments of the book. Can't think of the English
Excerpts.
excerpts.
If I
Thank
could
you, Mind
speak
Speaks.
and unspeak, I would tell you that in your head.
But yeah, it's that was a really interesting book. You can get that on paperback over on Amazon. It's not that expensive either. But he covers the topic really well. I actually looked at it on Kindle, and
Well, I mean, let's think about what you just said for a second. You just said that they think of it as, what did you say? They were evil
Metaphysical.
or no? I'm talking about Brandon. He's said that they
People are saying it could be demonic
and
or
they
spiritual in nature.
and they wanted to do what? Eat your soul? What? I don't understand. What are they going to do? What's the
Well,
mind
if you
speak?
think about it, just
Is
about
it
every
warning you?
culture has a patch of woods that they
Okay.
tell you not to go into because
I'm with
there's
you. So
demons
you're
and
saying
stuff
it's a
going
warning,
around.
right? That's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
It's a warning. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. So let's think about that based on what we know already. What did we all just discuss in a 3-part special edition series that we just did? We showed that exposure to certain EM high level radiation, which we just showed in this episode, can cause mental and visual hallucination, stimulation, etc. Near field exposure may not be exactly good for you.
Mhm.
And if we are dealing with something that actually does at least care about us empathically enough to where it doesn't want us to die, it may actually be trying to warn us away from some of these areas.
yeah,
It
there very
may.
well could be some form of protocol.
Yeah,
where they
exactly.
warn you, don't come over here, get out of here, rawr, stay away, grr,
Yeah.
arg, because
Yeah.
they know that if you get too close, you will.
And
get
what's the best
fried.
way? What's the best fear to make people move really fast, Joe? What is that fear?
Primal fear.
Primal fear. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the squirrel and the bear.
Yeah, you just.
Man, I can
jet.
tell you, if you have never experienced primal fear, can't describe it.
No, you can't.
Like, it is a fear that is a next level type of fear. I have
It
felt that
is.
before.
Yeah. Yep. It absolutely is. And a lot of people say that that's what happens. And when I had that experience, with that thing, that's the best I can say. I was not
Right.
in control. There was a part of me that was like, that was instinct, 100% instinct, fight or flight instinct, and go. That's all it was. There wasn't a voice in my head that said go. That was my voice in my head that said go, get out of here. This is not right.
Right.
This is outside the paradigm. And that
Mhm.
maybe that's what you're supposed to think, and maybe that's what they want you to think, and maybe that's why on some of these experiences like you're talking about, those guys are saying, boo, we want you to go away. That's cool. You want to think we're demons? Whatever, just get away, go, because it's dangerous to be here.
Yeah, I mean it very well could be. We talked about that both on and off air before. That this could be some form of protocol.
Yeah.
To keep people out of the danger zone, for multiple reasons. One, it's like, how'd this person get all these crazy radiation burns out in the middle of the forest?
Yep.
Then
Right.
you got like officials going around looking with, instrumentation. And then you got weirdos that go out there and start looking.
Yeah, weirdos. Mhm.
Would you rather have mind speak scare you off or a Flatwoods monster type of thing run you off?
I would go
Hands.
for probably mind speak. Honestly, I don't think I want to see something like the Flatwoods Monster.
I don't know. I'm kind of the guy that's like, show me.
I don't
I
know,
want to
man.
see it.
I
Let
don't
me
know.
get my phone
Maybe.
out. Hold on.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know.
But yeah, I think like we said earlier, guys, if you're experiencing or have experienced mind speak in the past, let us know. We're interested. If you are a Bigfoot researcher and you are a proponent for mind speak and you've got a group of Bigfoot that you commune with, get a hold of us too, because we would actually love to come out and research with you, and we bring along all of our toys just to see what we could find as well, because we often find that when you're looking for subject A, subject B will rear its head. um,
Yeah,
so we're open.
absolutely, absolutely.
We
We literally question everything and throw everything on the table. So yeah, no one's going to be making fun of you. That's for sure.
like
One
we
thing
we
I would
will openly
suggest,
tell you that we don't think this is Bigfoot, but we think there's something
Yeah.
here, and that's what we're really interested in.
one thing I'd
So
suggest that people must never do is if you do experience this often, bring a recorder with you and see if it'll pick it up.
yeah,
Because I mean, it happens all the time with ghost activity. It
You
picks
mean
up all
like
kinds of stuff we
EVP?
can't hear.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like
EVP or even
Yeah.
some kind of
EVP.
interference.
Hmm. Yeah, or interference. I'm thinking you'll be getting some interference. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what some kind of RF or EM
Yeah,
interference would
yeah.
cause the device to
Yeah, well, at
snooze.
least it would prove something to you, you know.
Yeah,
Well, if we went out there and, we have our subject beside us and they start suddenly saying, Bigfoot's talking to me right now, guys, we're going to, and I'm pick up a spike on my meter, I'm going to be like, I can't ignore this. No matter
right.
how much people think this guy's crazy, he's not crazy because here it is. There's something here that's
This is
causing
detectable.
this. Yeah, that's detectable. And if we can prove that, that's good enough for me.
Measurable data is what we're really after.
Yep. Multi replicatable and multi-sensor data is really what we're after.
And I'm convinced, honestly, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, might not have been in the same boat, but I'm convinced that there is way more going on, and we're right there. We're trying to find out as much as we can. So yeah, I think we've, in a lighter way, managed to cover this topic fairly well. Brandon, you have any final thoughts?
I'd fully believe it's happening to people. I just don't think it's tied to Bigfoot. I
I think
think
we
we
all
might even
agree with
have to put
this.
it in its own category for right now until some other data comes out,
Right.
including all the rest of the woo factor too. I think all of that needs to be separated in its own category.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it's parapsychological, events is what a lot of
Hmm.
this is. I mean, we have the name for that. We just don't know how this fits into, you know, this particular section unless
Yep.
we, just, go crazy on speculation train and say it's all aliens.
Right. Which a lot of people do. It's just we refuse to. It's fun to speculate. Don't get me wrong, but as from a research perspective, we just we can't.
I don't know what an alien is.
Yeah.
Now, is it the closest thing that I could probably label based upon what we know of alien? Yes, it absolutely is. This is as close as I think we can get. There is an
Yep.
alien, meaning an outside source of intelligence that is providing communication to people. And it has been happening for a very long time. Early contact cases, even, Greer back when he was actually doing work.
Good work.
Yeah. And when he founded, the CSETI group, when they were out there actually starting to have these communications and try to make contact on these C5s and whatnot. That's that's what it was all about. They weren't, hey, this is Earth to ET. It's not that. They were using their minds. They were beaming out these signals. You know, that's a part of this. So again, meditation, prayer, uh, thinking with intent, all these
Yep.
things. We're talking about a being or beings that can hear this, pick it up. That is telepathy.
Yeah.
That is parapsychology would call telepathy. And that is what's happening here, at least a part of this mind speak, as far as I'm concerned. So we are dealing with a parapsychological phenomena, an unknown one, that is instigated and initiated by a higher form of intelligence. And that is all that I can really say about it.
I tend to, I fall in both of your camps. I do not think that it is Sasquatch or Sasquatch related for that matter. I think it's just a happy accident that it's taking place out in the woods. And I do also agree that this is a form of contact, 100%. It is too similar to the early contact phenomena and modern contact phenomena for that matter. It's the same. It's identical. It's these communications of culture and course correcting that needs to take place. And those they're too similar. So I can't separate those. But again, if you're one of our listeners and you experience this, or if you're just now tuning into the show for the first time ever, and this topic is up your alley, please get a hold of us. We'll have you on the show. We'd love to continue this conversation with somebody else who's actually experiencing this actively, or goes out and experiences this on a regular basis. It's extremely interesting to us, and we'll treat you fair. We'll look at the evidence, and we'll go from there. So remember, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening to the Wild and Weird Radio on all your podcast catchers that are out there. And remember to go ahead and head over to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for a ton of additional content. We're showing up shorts. We're throwing up our investigation stuff where we go out and do field research. We post up interview videos. We put up live shows now. And remember, go ahead and hit the subscribe and notification bell so that way you're alerted anytime we come up with something crazy to put out there new for you guys. Again, thank you all. And if you want to continue to keep this show free for eons to come, you can head over to wildandweirdwv.com. Go hit the shop tab. There's not a whole lot in there, but we're getting ready to fix that. We promise. Very likely by the next episode, we're at least going to have a few things in there new that you guys will be able to pick up, support the show, and help keep it free for everybody. And if you've had a sighting, go to wildandweirdwv.com, hit the report a sighting tab. It's going to take you to our standardized sighting report, and you can go ahead and fill out all of the data that you can remember from your encounter and send that in. If it's in our immediate area and we're able to get boots on the ground with us, the three of us here and anybody else on our team, we will make it out to you and we will do our due diligence in collecting data. If you are outside of our immediate area of drive time, then still reach out to us, get a hold of us. Odds are we know somebody we are very good friends with, very trusted researchers and investigators, and we can get them into your area and get this account into the right hands for data collection to occur. And remember, Jerry Pauly, we got your back, brother. Hope you feel better. Hope you're resting up. And hopefully they get all this stuff figured out. Everybody go check out Hillbilly Horror Stories and go support those guys. Love you, Jerry.